Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Northern Irish cheeses webinar this evening. As everybody joins, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's going on with the Academy of Cheese. We've got a couple of other events coming up. We've got Affaner of the Year, the finals, which is live in London on the 27th of April. This is the experiment where 10 quick truckles have gone off to be affanered, aka matured, at different locations and for different treatments. And we're all gathering in London to have those judged by 6 expert judges. And anybody who comes to the finals will get to taste all 10 cheeses and the control cheese. And I tasted the control cheese yesterday. We did a judges briefing to let the judges know what was going to happen on the day and what they should be looking for. And the control cheese was absolutely fantastic. Very, very beautiful cheddar. Lots of different flavor profiles in there. Hi, everybody's joining. Lovely to see you in the chat. Sorry we can't see you in person. We've got Judith here from Vancouver saying good morning. Good morning. Fantastic. Do let us know in the chat where you are joining from. So the other things that are happening is the Friends Perk. So if you're a friend of the Academy, which is £25 a year and it goes towards supporting all the work that we do, this month we have an offer from Indie Fude, so from Laura. We have 10% off any order across the whole range, and with that you get a free chutney as well. And I've just tried this chutney, and by golly gosh, it's brilliant. It's so yummy, just full of different flavors. I was wowed, and I'm not a big chutney fan, so you have my vote there. We've also got 2 competitions, one with Seggiano to get their essential cheese board range, which is basically a selection of Italian biscuits and a preserve and a couple of other things, and then a competition to win tickets to Cheltenham Food and Drink Festival. So well worth entering. Please do enter, and you never know, you may be a winner. Anyway, we are trucking in here. Great. Participants are flowing. We've got Scotland. We've got Oslo. Jean Peter, hello. And from County Town Roan, Stoke-on-Trent, fantastic. Llandudno, amazing. Belfast, hello. York, Swindon, loving it. We have been 3 cheesemakers were going to join us, 4 cheesemakers potentially tonight, and one of them has emailed in poorly, so I'm afraid he's not coming, and the other one, we're having technical difficulties getting him into the webinar.
He says he can see us now, so maybe can you see right there?
I can't see him at all, no. I've got Julie though. We've got Julie, fantastic. So we have a cheesemaker.
Nope, there's Mark in the chat.
Mark's in the chat. So I think, Mark, you haven't joined as a participant. As a panelist, you've joined as a participant. So we'll work on that. I'm going to introduce Laura in a second, and we'll work on getting Mark from Ballylisk into the webinar to tell you all about his amazing, delicious cheese, the Triple Rose. So without further ado, I have to say those words because I love them, and I heard someone else say them the other week, so I'm very happy it's not just me that's super old-fashioned. I'm going to introduce you to the lovely Laura, who is 50% of the innovative rock and rolling cheesemongers in Comber and in Belfast, Indie Fude. So welcome, Laura. And hi, Julie, there, I can see you. We're going to come to you in a minute, Julie, so welcome to you as well. Laura, tell us all about Indie Fude and yourself. What does Indie Fude mean, the name, and just put us in the picture.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Laura. Nice to meet you. Virtually meet you all. So I am, as Tracy says, half of Indie Fude. We are both primarily cheesemongers in both Cumber and Belfast in Northern Ireland, and both kind of County Down, County Antrim. We exclusively stock produce from the island of Ireland. So obviously the cheese, we have about 60 different cheese in our care at the moment.
Wow.
And then hundreds of other products. So it's not just cheese, particularly in our headquarters in Cumber, which Tracy visited us in a couple of, well, gosh, maybe 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's last 2 years are like
pandemic, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Guild of Fine Food Awards. So that shop has hundreds of products, you know, everything from obviously the cheese to lovely kind of Irish made gelatos, lots of great grass-fed meat, jams, gorgeous handmade chocolates, and kind of anything you could wish for. You can do a full grocery shop of like just incredible Irish products with us.
I know, I drool over your Instagram posts as well, because some of those cakes and breads and pastries,
we're so spoiled. particularly in more recent times. I mean, I'm sure sort of the food industry kind of reflects the cheese industry as well. So when Johnny started Indie Fude nearly 6 years ago, it was a lot heavier kind of lent towards Southern Irish produce. We just didn't quite have the producers in Northern Ireland just yet. We were still sort of playing catch up, to be honest, when it came to sort of innovation and product ready, like shelf ready products. But now over the last kind of 2 to 3 years, we've seen such an explosion from all of the kind of talented makers in Northern Ireland as well, that we're nearly kind of at a 50-50 mark in the shop. And from the cheese, well, not the cheese, but we are going to get there. Maybe not 50-50, but slowly but surely we're bringing really great quality cheese into the world, and all the other products as well. There's loads to shout about now, which is excellent. I suppose a quick chat about kind of our cheese before we taste it later is that one of the kind of things we're doing at the moment is moving into the cheese world ourselves, because obviously it's something we're really passionate about. And Johnny always has fancied himself as a bit of a cheesemaker. So
he is a character and a half, isn't he? You do very well.
He is. We sort of are complementary characters. I think he's out there with all kind of the crazy ideas, and I'm sort of, kind of trying to trail him in a little bit, not spoiling the fun. We're both love doing kind of different bits and pieces, but kind of picking out the things that kind of make a little bit of sense and that we can work on without completely like losing the run of ourselves. And I guess we're lucky that way. Every bit of growth that's come along has been sort of organic. As far as kind of moving into the second store and now into cheese making, we've kind of stumbled across just really great people that we can work with, rather than having to kind of struggle to find them. As everybody knows, it is hard to find people in any industry, but particularly the food industry, that are on the same page. So yeah, it's going well for us at the moment. We've been lucky, kind of lucked out finding good people.
So what's this new collaboration then?
So we have teamed up with Davide Tane, who unfortunately is the cheesemaker who's unwell this evening, so won't be able to join us, but he is from Velo Cheese. And we've come together and have this kind of new company of Velo Cheese by Indie Fude. And we are almost complete building our cheese lab in Banana Block, which is in East Belfast, where we'll be making all of these great Italian cheeses. So Davide is from Sardinia. So we'll be making all of these Italian style cheese to start with. So he makes a fabulous mozzarella, burrata, scamorza, your smoked scamorza, ricottas. We'll be making some really exciting kind of product with the whey, our little smoked scamorzas.
Smoked scamorza that we've got tonight, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. And this is actually the first batch of cheese we made in our new cheese lab. So it's not actually available for sale yet. So everybody who has their hands on it tonight that is, be kind. It's our first batch in the new lab, so there's still a little bit of tweaking to do, but we're really delighted to be able to share that with you guys.
So Davide was making the cheeses anyway, but just in a very small kitchen.
He was, yeah.
So away, and this is a step up.
Yes, yeah. So
wow.
It's to allow him to sort of kind of expand and kind of work with us on developing some new things as well, and having that extra kind of space and a wee bit of finance, so you can share the load. You know, it's hard being a small producer, and particularly with something, you know, that takes quite a lot of money to set up. So it meant that sort of we can kind of all take a wee bit of the legwork into that and sort of support each other. And that's where the growth comes from, really. Hopefully, all being well.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely. That's exciting news as well, isn't it? And so, you know, there's been a real emergence, hasn't there, of new cheesemakers in Northern Ireland kind of over the last 10 years, 10, 11 years. And why do you think that is? Because there wasn't heaps before, was there? What's the kind of reasoning behind? Because in Southern Ireland and on, you know, in the rest of the island of Ireland, there are a lot of old school cheesemakers, you know, 30, 40 years in experience, and been there going a long time, a bit like the British cheese world. So why don't you think there was anything in Northern Ireland, and what's made them decide now to
I suppose there's sort of two different sort of stories to that, and a lot of it kind of stems from those. We've always had kind of smaller farms up here as opposed to sort of large scale industrial farms for milk. So those small farms were sort of always guaranteed a decent price for their milk, because we didn't have that kind of huge factory farming when it came to milk. So that kept the prices up for milk and butter. And with that great grass, you know, people were really keen for that product. And that there was, you know, we did have kind of one huge dairy, because we had 5 Mile Town, and they were buying milk from all these small dairies, guaranteeing them a relatively good price as far as a commercial, you know, a commercial entity goes. So there wasn't the same.
They were making quite a lot of sort of soft cheeses as well, weren't they? Brie style.
Yeah, kind of soft cheeses.
Brie and
there were, and then also some harder cheeses as well. You know, they had a huge portfolio by the time they collapsed. Well, almost collapsed. They're still making the goat's cheese, but most of those cheeses are completely out of production. And it now meant that there's a need for people to try and be a little bit more innovative. You know, these small farmers still, you know, are okay, but are thinking of ways to get a better price for their products. And we all know, even though, you know, a lot of work has to go into cheese making, and if you get it right, it is, you know, it's a good industry to be in. It allows you to kind of keep everything at home from the start to the end product. Particularly, as you can see when we speak to Mark at Ballylisk, you know, a farmhouse cheese, it's exhausting. It's hard to do everything yourself, but when you have everything from the start to the finish, there's such a kind of great satisfaction and control of your product as well.
Yeah. And we're going to talk to Julie as well. We still haven't managed to get Mark in, have we? Penny's saying it sounds a bit like Scotland 25 years or so ago. All the milk, excuse me, bought up by the Milk Marketing Board, and hardly any cheese, a cheese desert when I was growing up. Now there are dozens of wonderful cheeses. Yeah, this is right. I mean, I think this, when I had my delicatessen in the early 2000s, you know, buying local, shop local started to become a big trend with the Rick Stein Food Heroes and that era. And that encouraged more and more producers, didn't it? So
yeah, we had kind of a slightly odd situation in Northern Ireland as well, as in we didn't have any big supermarkets. I think the date completely escapes me now, but it was relatively recently that our first supermarket chain came to Northern Ireland, because it was a scary place to be, you know, as a kind of your Asda or Tesco's or Sainsbury's. You were kind of concerned about kind of what is actually like there. We all know, if you're not kind of, you know, it's a safe place to be, but if you don't know that, and the cities are kind of a little bit volatile and the big supermarkets aren't arriving, So they're not, local producers aren't getting squeezed the same way. They're being looked after by local supermarkets, because there's just not the same buying power. Everyone's kind of buying individually. I think that probably has a bit to do with it as well. Because there wasn't the same level of kind of import then. But
and
we have always been like, it's a terrible way of putting it, but we have always been that kind of 10 to 20 years behind sort of the rest of the UK, as far as kind of, shops, restaurants. When we get there incredibly well. Yeah. We have like a really kind of, I suppose because we've been able to watch everybody else a little bit as well. And we're like, well, these things really work, or, we're able to make really kind of educated decisions, but we do take that little bit longer to get there. We are quite a rural community, really.
Yes.
So yeah, it does sound kind of like Scotland, it's just sort of taken that little bit longer.
Well, it's fantastic that they're all coming to the fore now. And I think Mike, who's Mike's Fancy Cheese, and very famously now his Cheese Young Buck, started a trend, didn't he? He really sort of stuck his neck out and
absolutely,
and touted around, and hopefully Mike might join us later. We're not sure what's happening with these links. I will try and find out in a second while you talk to Julie. Actually, it might be an idea. So you've done us a very lovely map as well, so let me share that with everybody, and you can just talk about the location a little bit, Laura, of where the cheesemakers are.
Yeah, so you can sort of see we have our five cheese bakers on here at the moment. The little cluster in the middle where we have Mike's Fancy Cheese. So Mike there is at the tip of Strangford Lough. That is in Newtonards and super close to our shop in Cumber. We've worked with Mike for a really long time. So when he first started making cheese, we first had our little shop up like this wee flight of stairs hidden away in a courtyard. And Mike used to rock up every Friday with this like tiny little fridge and little kind of array of Irish cheese. And it's mad to look back on kind of where everything's kind of gone for everybody since then. But that's us there in Newtonards. The other two, you've got Valley Cheese by Indie Fude and Farmview Dairies are both really Belfast based. Valley Cheese by Indie Fude is in East Belfast. It's in a complex called Banana Block, which is like a heritage project, and with the National Lottery Fund, they're kind of going to be like a living museum. So the cheese lab is beautiful and has big front windows. So at any time when there's cheese being made, people will be able to like come along and peek in and see what's going on, because it's all about sort of that kind of being very accessible and kind of like taking kind of the mask away from all this stuff and letting people be able to see, which I'm sure will come with its own challenges.
Johnny and Davide are going to have to be on their best behavior.
Last time I was in there, Davide was on like this kind of, you've got all these breaks within cheese making where you have to sort of wait half an hour or an hour, and he was just in the middle of the lab on a balance board. I was like, well, we're gonna have to really
fit. Brilliant.
Yeah, there'll be good entertainment in between the cheese making, so you'll be able to sit out there and watch them. And then Farmview Dairies, where Kearney Blue is now made. So Kearney Blue at this point is really our oldest Irish cheese. That the original cheesemaker, Paul McLean, is in the process of retiring. He first started making that cheese kind of way down below where Mike is, down kind of on the inner side of the Lough Shore of Strangford Lough in Kearney, which is why the cheese is called Kearney Blue, just like on a stove. On a stovetop, and making this really gorgeous semi-soft blue cheese. And then he put it into the Great Taste Awards and the World Cheese Awards and started winning awards. And suddenly realized, like, I can't make this in my home. Like, I need to find somewhere where there's going to be a little bit more space, a little bit more like continued production. So he moved up to Farmview Dairies, which is one of our bigger dairies here. They still only take milk from within 5-mile radius of that farm to use to make the Kearney Blue. And at the moment, Davide from Valley Cheese is in the process of taking over that cheese making from Paul.
Wow, so he's going to be busy.
He's very busy, and yeah, a very talented cheesemaker to be able to sort of obviously learn. He's been really fortunate to be kind of taken under Paul's wing and be taught how to make this kind of gorgeous blue cheese. But it's, you know, it's as beautiful as ever.
Sorry, Laura, he'll make that cheese at Farm View.
It will remain at Farm View,
yes. You don't want your blue mixing with your
yeah, it's great. It's great. And it's just another really brilliant relationship, because Richard at Farm View then works with us and sort of the milk transportation down to our unit down at Banana Block and that as well. So
fantastic.
I mean, it's a great community. I think that's what, when it's so small and it's growing, of course there's competition, but everybody supports everybody. If somebody has a question and they like are a bit lost, I don't think there's a cheesemaker that you couldn't approach. You know, everybody wants everyone to succeed, because we all kind of need each other to succeed. It's all about kind of that kind of supportive atmosphere.
I think you'll find that, I mean, that's what we find in the cheese industry generally. Everybody is very sharing and very, they want, you know, cheesemakers will share knowledge and will phone each other up, even if they're competitors, and because they all want, there's plenty of market share for all of them. So that's fantastic to hear, though, that that's happening as the Northern Irish cheese scene is developing. And then last but not least on your map,
yeah, we've got Ballylisk, which is just nestled in at the bottom of the loch here of Loch Ney. It's sort of near Portadown, Armagh area. Gorgeous, like beautiful grass, and perfect situation for a farmhouse cheese. And it's just like it's great place for cattle, great place for milk, great place for cheese. And then obviously we have Julie and Kevin then at Dark Mountain Cheese up by the Sperrins. So we're sort of a little bit spread it out, but got over this left-hand side and Enniskillen area. You know, we're missing a few cheesemakers. So anybody fancies giving it a go
out there, or farmers, we need you.
Need a couple of dots over here.
Yeah, I'm going to stop that share. I do have to say actually that one of the reasons for tonight's webinar is from Invest Northern Ireland, who have been really supportive of helping the cheesemakers, and they have collaborated with us as the Academy of Cheese to celebrate what you're doing over in Northern Ireland from us on the mainland, and it's brilliant. They have produced this booklet, Northern Ireland's Emerging Cheese Scene. So if anybody wants one of those, email me or message me and we can get that out in the post to you. It's like a little booklet about all the different cheeses and the accompaniments. So
it was lovely to get all those photos and stuff done as well.
Yes, really nice. All the cheeses are in the Academy of Cheese Library, folks. So get in there and get exploring them. Young Buck, which is the one we're going to try from Mike, is actually will be a level 3 cheese. Secrets being told now. So Laura, while I'll try and get Mark. Has he messaged you as to
see if I have another message from him next?
And then maybe you can talk to Julie first and we'll taste her fantastic cheddar style cheese.
Yeah, Mark's saying he can see and hear us. So I suppose because we've seen that in the chat, but he has no option to join as a participant. Did you
send him the link?
Yeah.
Let me message him in the You talk to Julie, and let's start the tasting with the
yeah, perfect.
Banagher. How do you say it, Julie? Banagher Bold?
Banagher
Bold. Hi, Julie. Welcome.
Hello. Yeah, we're out here in the Sperrins. We're about 17 miles outside of Derry City. So yes, the map is a little bit skewed towards the Belfast end, but we've got a host of other small food producers that we're working with in this area to kind of create, you know, a broader food map. Because
you have a great catalogue of cheeses as well. You know, you kind of have you nearly can have a little map of your own for all the different styles you're making as well.
It may speak to great sense of innovation, or maybe it speaks to a really short attention span. I don't know what it is, but yes, I have 8 cheeses a goat blue, a fresh goat's cheese, and a hard long-aged goat's cheese. And then the 5 cows, the Sparran Blue and the Dart Mountain Dust, the Banagher that you'll try tonight, Turkeyron, and the Kilcreene.
I think your story, Julie, really kind of reflects on a lot of the cheesemakers, particularly in Southern Ireland, as in the Northern Irish and the Irish are very good at sort of leaving Ireland and then seducing somebody back to their country to help them make great cheese or help them do something exciting. And that's how we captured you into the Northern Irish cheese scene, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I came over, I was at university in New York, and then did a junior year abroad, and then eventually ended up in Belfast doing a PhD in Irish politics. And then obviously the next logical step was to start a cheese making business. So, it makes perfect sense. So,
I'm not sure what's more complicated, the Northern Irish politics or cheese making.
No.
Because you always had a food background though, didn't you? You were.
Yeah, I had always worked in restaurants since I was no age, and we had a restaurant about 25 years ago in Derry City, and that's one of the things that we noticed is that as you said, in the southern part of Ireland, you can't swing a cat for hitting a world-class cheese. Up here there was certainly all the commercial, large scale cheddar production, etc. But there just wasn't that degree of small artisan producers. So it was either the best idea in the world to start, or and so far we've been very lucky, and we all seem to kind of emerge at roughly the same time, which is nice for moving us all along.
So was it 2010 really you started, Julie, or when the first sort of ripples of cheese making?
Yeah, it was prior to that, because I think like everybody else, you start with a pot on the kitchen stove, and then you move it into the lower part of your refrigerator, and then every family member starts complaining about the smell, and so then you realize you've got to go big or go home. So and then we ended up getting a farm diversification grant and converting an old corrugated shed, a big 4-bay shed, into the food production area that we have now. And we've just last week broke ground on a big expansion to the building for more aging rooms and a kind of teaching center. We've been doing a lot of tours with chef groups and educational groups and community groups, and so it'll be nice to have kind of a custom built space to bring groups out for tours and tastings. I do a science of cheese making tour. We work with a local brewery. The Banagher mold that you have there is made, the wheels are washed in a local beer that's made over in Campsie by Northbound Brewery. So we do a tour in collaboration with them, where people go to the brewery and do a brewery tour and a beer tasting, and then they come out to us and do a cheese tasting. And we work with a guy who knows everything that moves or breathes or grows in the Sparran Mountains. So he takes people hill walking and then comes to us. And so it's just finding those links, especially because we're quite rural. So it's finding other people to kind of collaborate with, so that it becomes worthwhile for people to make the extra sort of detour to the highways.
Great experience.
Yeah.
I know I've been eyeing up all those tours for a while. I think this will be the year eventually. A bit of a hiccup in between, but eventually get up and see you guys and see a lot of the producers up there, because there is, did you say there is a lot going on and sort of in your area now? There are lots of producers, not just cheese.
Yeah, the restaurant scene in Derry has just completely exploded, and the chefs up here are incredibly great about using local, about naming you on menus, about collaborating with you and finding out what works. And it's been very, very, very rewarding in that sense as well.
That's fantastic. The food tourism thing is amazing, isn't it? Because that was just starting to come to the fore before pandemic, and then it obviously disappeared completely. But you're building that back up again now, Julie.
Yeah, I think that's that. People want that experiential, they want to see where things come from, how they're made, the stories that are behind them. And so, and if you can find other producers, and give people kind of a little experience on a number of different fronts, I think you're on to a winner.
Fantastic. Now, do you want to talk us through this lovely cheese? Because Penny in the chat has already started. She's eating it. She's gone. She's
Can't
away.
resist it any longer.
Tell us how you make it. Is it to a traditional cheddar make, Julie?
It's not. I don't cheddar the curds. It's a scalded cheese. So I take the temperature up quite high, and as I said, once it comes out of the brine, and the cheese is washed in it's a number 26 local, the pale ale made by Northbound Brewery, and that just gives it another added dimension to the rind. So yeah, it's been a trial and error. That one won gold at the World Cheese Awards a couple of years ago, which was a really great, which was really
Congratulations! That's one hell of an achievement.
Yeah, it was a good one. So it's I think all the cheeses, I don't think I'll ever be able to say they're finished. I think it's always evolving. I don't think we ever stop learning.
Every day's got a different milk.
Someone was mentioning earlier about how cheesemakers are good at sharing information, and I think one of the things about cheese making is I can tell you exactly how that I make that cheese to the degree, to the time, to the pH, but you won't be able to recreate it because your milk's different, your weather's different, your sense of what the curd feels like is different. So I think that's what makes cheese making, one of the things that makes it so interesting.
It's got a fantastic body. Penny's saying again, sorry Penny, I keep mentioning you, and Steve's not got any, but he's tried it before. The body's really good, sort of very firm, and then it starts to crumble. Really lovely.
Yeah, and it's very different. I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about with this new aging room is I want to keep the cheeses as long as possible, and so this will give me the extra space. Because it changes again after about 6 months, and I imagine will change again after 12 months. And so I want to kind of take the wheels on and age them on a bit more, and the expansion will give me the space to do that.
Because this one currently is usually it's 3 months, isn't it? Really, this
it's about 3 months, and I think it's I think I'd like it best at 6 months. Just both texture. It dries out a little, but it just intensifies a little bit in flavor. So that's what we'll be aiming for.
It'll be exciting to be able to try them, obviously for you, but also for me to be able to try them at all of those, at all the different ages, because we've got to know them all quite well at the age they are now. It'll be sort of really exciting because at Kiernan as well, it'll be amazing to see that kind of Parmesan style as an older.
And we'll charge you twice as much for it.
Yeah, because it's been sitting very safely. It's expensive rent in those cheese stores, isn't it? But it's been described beautifully by Penny that you've got that citrus and that nutty, and it's quite fruity, I think. I bet it's lovely with this chutney. I'm going to keep going on about this chutney because it is. I'm stunned. I'm not a chutney girl, and it's got pears in it. It's got a bit of spice, a little bit of curry spice, and then you get a chili hit at the end, and I'm a big curry fan, so good choice. If anybody can get their hands on Indie Foods chutney, do. So Julie, you've got quite a few other cheeses you make, so we're going to have you back again.
Perfect. And I open our doors to any curious visitors who want to come up and visit us here. As I say, we're a little bit off the beaten track, but we'll be very pleased to see everybody.
Wow, that's amazing. I'd love to come. Do you have a farm shop or a?
We have an office come packaging center, come distribution hub, come farm shop, but hopefully again with the extension that we're working on now, we'll have a designated space for that as well.
Do you send any of the cheese currently to the UK, to the mainland?
We have done in the past, and it's right now mainly we've been serving the Irish market, but again, hopefully when I have more cheese, I will be able to send it off to more destinations. So
yeah, I'm sure they're going to want to try and keep you in Northern Ireland, keep all those cheeses there. Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
So, Mark, we have you. You're in. Hooray. Do you want to unmute?
Good evening, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted now.
Yes.
Hey, Mark.
I'm so happy we've now got you in the
Well,
webinar,
at least I could see and hear you, which was very nice. Everything's been very interesting so far. And I think everything that has been spoken about is extremely accurate, etc.
Good. And you guys at Ballylisk are fairly relatively new to cheese making as well, aren't you?
We probably, we in the Northern Ireland cheese scene, apart from David, who Laura has spoken about, we are definitely the newbies. For the other participants who are not au fait with Ballylisk Dairies, my late brother and I started the company in 2017. We had an idea. He was a dairy farmer. He had a background in the food industry. Really, it was the beef industry at a reasonably high level. Came back to the family farm, produced an exceptionally high quality milk. And Laura alluded to kind of, the milk pool in Northern Ireland and different aspects of it, but it is a very high quality milk pool. Dean's Milk was right at the top of that, but he was essentially getting the same price for his milk as everyone else. And he looked and he thought, how do I add value to this? And we didn't initially look at cheese. We looked at what alternatives or opportunities were, or possibilities were there. Liquid milk was one, but it was going to be unfeasible. Yogurt and ice cream were kind of well rehearsed, and then we settled on cheese, and eventually narrowed it down to what type of cheese we're going to make, how we're going to do that, and it went on from there. And interestingly, actually, Laura alluded to herself and Johnny earlier. Johnny was one of the first people I actually spoke to. I met him in Lisburn, where I live, at a market stall, 2016, and I used to ask him. I've been looking for mixed cheese, which is in the public domain my favourite cheese. I think it's incredible. He had mixed cheese on sale and a couple of other cheeses, and I said, look, we had this idea, and from the get-go, he was really kind of sincere and kind of open. And eventually, without talking all night, but we got into then the development stage, and he said, look, Laura and I have this business, come down and see us. She wasn't there, he was there. They were up the stairs at the time in the courtyard. We eventually brought him samples, and sooner or later, some of those samples were kind of getting where they should have been. And he said, you know what, whenever you're ready, I'll sell that. And he did, and these guys have been incredible. I can't speak highly enough of the whole group. I mean, I have seen Julie from afar, but when we launched our brand initially in November 2017, the BBC Good Food Show, one of the first people that came over to Dean and I was Julie's husband, Kevin, another cheesemaker. They were established, and it was just supportive from day one. There's no kind of jealousy. It's exactly the opposite. It's actually like it's like a sort of a community. It's actually smaller than a community. It's like a wee family. And you know what? They're there. It is universally supportive and positive. It's a very healthy thing. And if I needed to go and see some of these guys, their doors are open. I already have, because I was trialing blue cheeses and I ended up with a wee bit of contamination for a while, and I got advice, and it sorted me out. And as you get a wee bit bigger, those things actually affect you a bit more. But here we are now.
And obviously there's been, sorry Tracy, there's been sort of so much then growth since 2017, and that first cheese kind of arriving and us kind of getting out into the world and introducing it to people. and like your full kind of catalog and how much kind of experimentation you've been doing, and sort of it's the same as Julie. I mean, the same with kind of nearly all the cheesemakers. There's always your brains are always going. You're always sort of thinking of, well, what other exciting thing can I do? What I try? What'll work? What
Of course, the same as you guys. I mean, with your new collaboration with David, etc., they're all kind of natural kind of progressions. I probably looked at Julie and I go, she's talking about, and it's really exciting for them, you know, more space, etc., etc. I'd like some more people. You can do a lot of stuff, but there comes a point when you have to kind of devolve some of this stuff and bring others in and share the knowledge to allow you to kind of maybe take it to a bigger audience. That's what I'm really trying to do at the minute, as well as a couple of what I feel are interesting things that dovetail with our range of cheeses. One of those is actually the Triple Rose, which was our first cheese. I would kind of look at it as our flagship cheese. But for this Christmas, I will be launching, yeah, there we are. Well, if you can imagine that cheese, everyone, imagine a lovely black seam through about 1 millimeter thick, black seam with truffles. I already made them for Christmas, but I didn't have technical and nutritional, all that sort of stuff done. But they will be on sale for this Christmas. It's going to be called the Truffle Rose, and there will be some exciting branding linked to the other things, but absolute premium, a premium product, and it's kind of a natural kind of it's a natural sort of
natural fit
development for that cheese. The other things for the guys, the participants, or in the webinar who are not familiar with the range, we're probably slightly different from the likes of Julie and Kevin, who have a really, really interesting range. They've done some really interesting things in their part of the world, especially with that Banagher Bowl, you know, with their local ale. We have singularly a range of white mold ripened semi-soft cheeses. The Triple Rose, the triple cream cheese was the first one. The next one was a smoked variant of that, and that's doing very well for us now. It's a really refined cheese, very lightly smoked with cherry wood, and the likes of the chef people are really sort of taken to that. And we're moving that on with a smoking room in our factory. There's also a seasonal version of the triple cream cheese. We wash it in local cider for 48 hours. And that'll probably, I may do something for the summer, but it'll definitely be out again in the autumn. And again, something a wee bit different. We now have developed a really nice, in my opinion, farmhouse brie. Very pleased with that. And as I say,
it is beautiful, it ripens so well. It's
yes,
sort of, that's something that's kind of almost missing across the board, apart from yours in Ireland.
And I think we're lucky with
lovely squidgy
the milk there.
What size is the brie, Mark?
The brie comes in 3 sizes, Tracy. So there's a really nifty little retail size, 110 grams. It's actually somewhere between that and a food service cheese. There's a 200-gram cheese. Okay. Those are very nice for retail as well. And then for those who want it, there's like a 1 kilo round.
Okay, cool. But again, so going up to 1 kilo.
Yeah, absolutely. And that we should see a lot more of that going out this year. From our own point of view, and when I look at sort of the strands of our business that we sell cheese to, first and foremost, locally, it has been really, really vibrant and exciting. But I can see food service coming back now, a lot more hotels. I'm really pleased now at the likes of the food or the hospitality side of things opening up, because it has come now. We've been making the cheese in our factory for 4 years. The brand's a little more established, and actually it's a nice time for hospitality to be picking up.
Coming back.
Which
Can
is
you
great.
tell us a little bit? Can I interrupt you?
Of course.
Otherwise we're going to run out of time. Can you tell us a little bit about the Triple Rose? Because it is awesome. I mean, it's just melt in the mouth. You know, about the production of it, why it's so creamy, the milk. I mean, I've been holding it up to the camera, hoping, here's Mike, fantastic, so that you can see, for people that haven't got the cheese, that they can see it's this golden yellow color. But tell us about it. Why is the milk so fabulous around by you, and what do you do to this to make it so creamy?
We're blessed with exceptional farmland, pasture land in County Armagh, and specifically where Ballylisk is. It is important just at this juncture in the conversation. That's right where the family farm is. So we're blessed with exceptional pasture land there. My brother Dean was not only had a great interest in animal genetics, welfare, health, their production levels, but he also made exceptional feedstuffs. And his grassland management was really at the top of where it should be. And we have really benefited from that. So there's an exceptionally high quality milk that goes into the cheese to start with. If you look at, for example, one of the 230-gram cheeses, which is our cheese that goes to food service, to put that in context, 38 litres of milk and 10 litres of cream goes into making 40 cheeses. So you can kind of get a flavour of how that creamy paste comes about. There's a lot of cream going into it. The other guys will testify to this, and again, these are my opinions, but there's milk and milk out there. There's cream and cream. There's grass and grass. There's kind of any product or commodity. There's stuff at the high end of the scale and stuff at the low end of the scale. We're using the best cream that we can get to put into it. And then obviously, you know, like anybody, we had perfected our own kind of recipe and process. We've been very lucky in the sense that our ripening room, really pleased with it. It performs exceptionally well. So that lovely sort of white mold and the cheese ripens really well in it. And then you're into the cheeses that you kind of have in front of you. You're talking about a lovely sort of golden paste, etc. You're then into the personal taste type thing, and it's no different than Mike's cheese. Again, Mike, you missed it. I was giving you a plug. You're my favourite. But you're down to the personal taste aspect. Then, do you want the cheese young, or do you want it a lot more mature, etc.? And as my cheese matures, that paste will soften. And obviously, then I think in the background or the back of that, I mean, everybody's the same. You'll meet people at events or whatever, and there's a kind of, for me, an education piece there. And it's how your cheese should be looked after, how it should be kind of eaten, and you know, don't just eat it straight out of the fridge. Obviously, I'm talking preaching to the converted here, but
doing a nice little pitch here for the Academy of Cheese, I think,
to give it its best chance. Mine, the buttery creamy paste is the essential characteristic of that cheese.
Mike is taking the mickey out of you there.
No, Mike's preaching to the converted as well.
Mike's
just a perfect poster, Mike.
Yeah.
We're launching our new campaign to make sure that people eat cheese at room temperature.
Show us the sign again, Mike. Welcome, by the way. That's great. Yeah. Can everybody see that? Please.
Is that by Tony? That's awesome.
Go, Mike.
Room temperature. Fantastic. Well, that's what I love about you Northern Irish guys. You're just rocking it. So we're getting some amazing feedback for the Triple Rose, Mark, in the chat. That Triple Rose is an absolute joy, a slightly bitter edge to catch the attention and keep it honest. And then when you're inside, it's just heavenly salt cream nut butter. Yep. Penny has finished the whole of her.
I'm just going to tell you a couple more things. And for those who don't know, kind of just educational bits about the cheese. Slightly different than Mike. We pasteurize our milk. We also use a vegetarian rennet. For me, it doesn't change the taste of it. It just leaves it amenable to a vegetarian palate. But can I just thank everybody in the chat for the really kind remarks they've made. It's very much appreciated.
See, there's a question there, Mark, about whether that truffle cheese is going to be available at Indie Fude and when can they start reserving it. So we'll have to get more information on that as soon as possible.
There's a load of cheese getting packed tomorrow, Laura. So do you know what? I'm mobile in the next few days.
Oh, so yes, the truffle cheese is here for Easter.
Oh, the truffle cheese. Sorry, the truffle cheese. The truffle cheese for me is again the ones that I trialed were, and it's just to put it in context. If you look at the 230-gram cheese, which is essentially the circumference of a small or a medium-sized saucer, a 1 millimeter, which is about 8 to 9 grams of fresh truffles, in monetary terms, making it, that's £6 worth of truffles in a cheese. So you can kind of see how that elevates it to a kind of premium kind of product. And I'm sure you can kind of, especially with costs going up the way they are, milk price, cream price, everything else, you can kind of see where this is going to sit at a price point. With that in mind, and looking at the wider context of it, I think less is more. I think there is going to be a market for it. It's a natural fit for us, both with our customer base and how we have kind of positioned our brand. The plan for it will be to essentially release it, a smaller amount of it for Easter annually, but the Christmas market is where it is aimed at. That time where people are sort of looking a wee bit of extra luxury and looking something a wee bit different.
Sounds excellent. Sounds really, really good. Thank you. It is a beautiful cheese, and it's stunning with the Leanna has been saying in the chat with the Ditty's Irish oat cakes.
The wee bit of sweetness.
Yeah, and I mean Ditty's. I mean that's an interesting one. Ditty's. I think the participants have Ditty's own oat cakes. We have our own range of ancillary products to complement it. And interestingly, and funny enough, we have a range of 3 oat cakes, and we buy them from Ditty's. They are stunning. They're really
they look like they're going to be really heavy, but they're really light, aren't they?
No, they're super. And when you're meeting people at events, etc., and you mention oat cakes, you kind of see there's a bit of a deep breath, and I think people think dry cardboard. They're not. They're absolutely stunning. I mean,
Lost me thing. Thank you for joining us. Laura, did you have any more questions for Mark, or are we good to go to Mike, who is arrived?
Thank you, Mark. I think everybody's kind of got a good feel for it, and is probably looking forward to being able to try one of the other ones in a future tasting, hopefully. But I think the Triple Rose is a good one to kind of kick off an introduction, being sort of the flagship and super special.
Thank you guys for sort of inviting me along. It's great to be along with Julie and Mike. It's a real thrill.
No, it's brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So we've kind of skipped the Scamorza at the moment, Laura. I don't know if you want to do a quick record.
Oh, we can absolutely jump to Mike and go back and forth. It's fine.
Okay.
No pressure.
Mike, hello. What beer are you drinking?
We're very friendly with Boundary Brewery, who have a canning machine and always have they call them low fills, so you just get a
secret beer.
Unlabeled mystery.
Unlabeled. That sounds really.
I'm sure Laura, now she's down at Banana Block, has probably got a few.
I'm popular with the odd secret beer too.
I found I'd got a Belfast lager in the fridge in the cupboard, so I thought I better get that chilled and give it a go tonight. And it's very good. I'm not sure which cheese it's the best with though. Maybe the
Anaher, maybe.
Yeah, I think it is. It's good.
Kind of match in with the ale. But I suppose we'll probably introduce you, Mike, to the guys here. For anybody who doesn't know you.
About him all night, haven't we?
We've kept name checking you back in. We were talking earlier on about our little shop up the flight of stairs where you used to rock up with your little cheese fridge, and we would have Cheese Fridays up there when we kind of all sort of started at the same time as we babies.
It seems like a lifetime ago now. Well, we've been making cheese now for about 8 years, and we became then accidental cheese sellers, because after about 6-7 months of me starting making cheese, I broke my hand playing football, and then my best friend came to lend a hand, because again our cheese making process is a continuous thing. So when you start something one day, there's bits you have to go in and finish off the next day. So he came and literally quit his job and started working for me. So obviously our cheese is aged for 3 months, so we just don't have cash instantly as we're trying to scale up. So we started buying other people's cheese, and we're looking for places to sell a bit of cheese. And the guys just started Indie Fude up in a little loft in Cumber, and we used to come around on a Friday with a little trestle table full of cheese. We did that for about 4 or 5 months, and then we were like a
trestle of cheese and a box of unlabeled beers, and it hasn't really changed that much since. I suppose that maybe just to let everybody know kind of how it all started off. I suppose you did your cheese journey start with, it started with working in the deli in Arcadia when you were
Yeah, for sure. So I sort of
your way in?
fell into cheese accidentally. I sort of I had fell into food completely accidentally. I had no real interest in food, and then whenever I left school, went and worked in just a wee deli because I just hated big business and stuff like that. So fell into working in a Class B deli, and that's when I started getting interested in food and cheese. I was the Arcadia, and they have this like big, lovely cheese counter. That was one of those cheese counters that has 200 cheeses in it. So as you can understand, not all of them will be tip top. But the cheeses that we sort of found were the best were all the Irish cheeses because they sort of sold the best. And then I started getting really interested in that and started writing stories about. I started a wee stupid blog and writing stories about cheese to sort of try and help me to learn about it and to help them to sell it to customers. And then that's when I saw a course over in England. It's a place called the School of Artisan Food that was just starting up, and it was this kind of a college that was set up. Well, obviously the Cheese Academy is probably familiar with there, but
well, we've got someone in, I have to say, we've got Leanna, who is an Academy of Cheese training partner, who is now training academy courses at School of Artisan Food.
Well, we were old classmates, you see, that was it, like, you know, so
yeah.
we
So were you in the same class as Leanna?
Yeah, it was me, Leanna,
No way.
Davy Giant, who does the roll right and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I didn't
George
realize.
Bramham, who's at Harvey and Brockless, I think, making their Anstey goat's cheese and stuff like that, and then another girl.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he's a legend as well.
It was a good year for cheese.
It was. That's produced 3 amazing cheesemakers and 1 amazing trainer in Leanna.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a really exciting kind of place. We were the sort of first year, and we sort of went there, and it was like half built, and that kind of helped because we went to the college. We were meant to be sort of straight in making cheese and learn how to make cheese, but because it wasn't ready for us, they just sort of sent us out on work placement pretty much for the first couple of months, which for cheese making is an amazing way to learn and stuff like that. So I sort of spent so much time with other different UK cheesemakers and sort of learned through osmosis for a good bit, like. So yeah, it was a Class B experience, and then from there I ended up working at Sparkenhoe Farm, make the Sparkenhoe Red Leicester and stuff like that. So worked there for a year, coming out of School of Artisan Food because I had to pay all back the debt because it wasn't cheap to go. So
to be honest, did that, and were quite relatively new cheesemakers, weren't they, at that point?
Yeah, well, that was it. So I did a placement with them, and then they sort of invited us on. I thought it'd be a great place to learn because they were sort of at that time, maybe they'd been making cheese for about 8 years, maybe, which in making terms is very, very short, like, especially for them making a cheese that's aged for just shy of a year kind of thing. So
yeah, and raw milk.
It was raw milk. They were sort of looking at developing other cheeses, so it was a really good place to sort of go after you've just sort of finished studying. And they were very, here you go, you do this now, and
here, give it a go.
You saw all aspects of cheese making and cheese business all there, like, so. It was
lots of washing up for you then.
Yeah, exactly.
And to this very day, pretty much.
So I did that for a year, and then I always wanted to come back to Northern Ireland and make cheese. That was always the plan. So quit the job, came back very cockily, thinking that I'd find a farmer or find a lot of people who'd want to give me lots of money to start making cheese. But no one was as optimistic about the Northern Ireland cheese market as I was whenever I came back. So the banks were all like, "Oh yeah, it's a great business plan. Yep, here we go." But unfortunately, whenever you're 26, you don't have a house and you have no money, they don't want to give you any more money to start making cheese. So we crowdfunded to get started. So we used equity crowdfunding when we give away part of our business to get going. Like, so that was sort of 8-9 years. Yeah, like 2013, November 2013, we made our first batch cheese, and we've been making ever since. Like, so the cheese itself is then, it's called Young Buck. It's a Stilton style cheese, but obviously you're not allowed to call it Stilton because Stilton's got a protected name and can only be made in a certain area in England. And it's made with raw milk, which Stilton can't be done with. But again, I was fortunate to do a bit of work placement with Joe Schneider at Stitchelton. And again, because I sort of made so many different cheeses, it was the kind of most interesting cheese making process. It was very kind of calm and low temperature, and I could sort of envisage a one-person setup, which we were sort of trying to do. And also it was aged for 3 months, so we couldn't have made anything that was longer aged in 3 months because we just wouldn't have the cash flow to buy milk off a farmer and stuff like that. So that's why we sort of were looking for something in around that 3-month period, 3-month window, and that was the kind of cheese that we were sort of most interested in. Also, there is a lovely tea shop up in Settle. A guy called Andy Swinsko runs Courtyard Dairy, and Andy was also he didn't do the full course at School of Artisan, but he was on for a lot of the cheese making weeks. So I got to meet Andy, and he was setting up the Courtyard around the same time as we were starting to make cheese. And he said, if you make a raw milk blue cheese, we will buy a lot of it. And then whenever we started making, we thought, oh, this is brilliant. Why aren't there a lot of other raw milk blue cheesemakers around? And then after about a year, you realize why there's not very many around. It's a very variable product, which we have, instead of trying to control it too much, we've just put it into our marketing spiel where we're, oh yes, it's the
part of the charm. It's artisan, and like variation.
Sometimes it's wider, and it's like you'll have some that are really blue and spicy, and whenever you see it again, we sort of sell everything we make, but everyone we sell to, mostly it'll be a cheese counter or a restaurant, so somewhere we can have that conversation about why it changes. We'll never be in a supermarket or in a pre-pack, because again, it's just not something that we're really interested in, but it's just something that we can't really do because it is incredibly variable, and that's why I'm always wearing a hat even in the house in talks, because I've got an eggy like Mark, like just cheese making is very stressful, like like whenever you've got a room full of 3-month-old beautiful looking cheese, it's great. Whenever you sort of see a month or two down the line, you got some dodgy ones coming up, it's not the best thing. It's
actually changed in flavour since I first tried it when I took it out of the fridge a couple of hours ago. So your campaign to taste cheese at room temperature, that has really changed in flavour. It's mellowed, it's biscuity, it's stunning. Still got. I think
it is a particularly beautiful kind of example of it. That wheel that we have kind of at the moment is a really kind of nice.
Laura said I was going to some very important people, so I picked out a good one for her. I usually give Indie Fude the duds, like.
Oh yeah, I thought we got the best ones.
So yeah,
that biscuity thing, that malty biscuity thing near the rind.
Definitely. So we like at the minute we're very fortunate. We've got some lovely cheeses at the minute, and like this is kind of like what we're looking for ideally whenever we're making. We always kind of call it like 3-in-1. So we don't want it to be too blue and too overpowering. The blue is like trying to give it that creaminess. It's kind of like salty, and where the blue comes, you get that sort of wee crunch. We like to have a decent amount of white still in there because I love that kind of like pear, banana, fruity kind of like yeasty flavors going on, and then that kind of real malty biscuity towards rind.
Johnny always describes it as tasting like those wee foamy bananas, and everyone laughs, and then they taste it and they're like, well, there is kind of a foamy banana pineapple kind of touch to the white on it.
We did
what is a wee banana? Just small banana.
They're like penny banana cheese.
The foamy ones.
Sweeties.
Like the penny sweets.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
You meant just small bananas.
whenever we I used to work at like all synthetic flavors come from a natural flavor at some point. And whenever I used to work at Spark and Hogue, so we made a red Leicester, and we used to Neil's Yard, and the guys would come up, and you'd be grading these cheeses, and you'd be doing all these tasting notes. And the one flavor that I always would get over and over again on like a cheese that you knew was going to be big and juicy whenever it was kind of 9 months, whenever you're tasting it 3 months, it would always taste like cheesy Watsits. But I remember like David and Joe they were saying, stop fucking saying cheesy Watsits whenever the buyers come around to grade the cheese. Like so it's the same like
peak selling again, cheesy Watsit, foamy bananas, good cheese.
Whenever we talk about like bananas and pear drop flavors and cheese, they would traditionally be seen as false and stuff like that, in terms of like if you're bringing out a show cheese to So everyone always thinks I'm a big spoil sport because I never enter cheese awards and stuff like that. But it's because that's why, because all the things that we enjoy in our cheese are always counted as faults. So yeah, so there's no point in entering awards.
Well, it's very, very delicious. And Leanna is saying, this is beautiful, deep, earthy, sweet and rich, wonderfully complex. Love watching this cheese evolve. Bravo, Mike.
I sent her that on Instagram. I told her to say that. Like,
sign up. So another lady is asking, is there any lipase in it?
No, we don't. We like literally we're as low intervention cheesemaker as you get, with no additives. Again, our starter culture, with even like we sell a bit of English cheese in our shop, but one of our sort of things that we get from England is our starter culture. So we use like whenever you're making cheese, you guys might talk about this earlier, but you add in a starter culture, you add in your rennet, you add your salt. Like all the cheese we've had have all got those same ingredients. Our starter culture is like
from Barbers.
Barbers, yeah. So we can still get it over, but it costs like an extra 150 quid because we've got to get a vet bill each time. So we've sort of we use it a bit less and we rotate it, and we've been doing a bit of our own like propagating our own starter culture and stuff like that at the minute. Like but again, it's not ideal whenever you're doing a raw milk blue cheese, which is already at the sort of the highest wedge of things.
Just makes it exciting, doesn't it?
Going into Russian roulette now, aren't you?
But again, it's kind of like we sort of, we would sort of roll the Barbers on a bit more and stuff like that. So again, we're using like very little of that. Like our blue, again, that's kind of why our blue is probably a bit all over the place, because we try not to add it to every batch. We try and like add it once a week to keep the room ticking over rather than into every batch and stuff like that. Again, it's just sort of letting it, well, I say it's letting us do his thing, but costs are going up and we need to keep anything, like all the things in cheese are there already, like, so yeah. If you don't want to spend 20 quid on a bit of blue to go in your cheese, if you don't need to, like, you don't do it.
Are you having to pay export fees to send it to the UK now or not?
No, not that way. All that way is fine. Like, it's just getting stuff across.
Getting stuff coming onto you. Crazy world. Laura, we're kind of running out of time, so do you want to push through Kearney Blue and Gamorza? Mike, thank you. That's a brilliant insight. We're going to one of the other blues.
No problem, lovely.
Which I think is the oldest blue.
The OG.
The oldest cheese in Northern Ireland, isn't it? That's been made, Kearney Blue.
So we've got the Kearney Blue, which is your other kind of blue you have there, completely different to the Young Buck, very, very different in texture. Really nice kind of squidge to it, and a good bit milder on the palate as well. So this one, I think we did talk a wee bit about the history earlier on. We sort of talked about Kearney and Velo cheese at the start, so I'll just do a really quick recap because I know we've run over. I'm sure people maybe have things they need to do. So this one, so he started in about 2010. So Paul was making this in Kearney on sort of a big pot on his stove in the kitchen, and was making sort of this beautiful first class cheese, sent it out, got loads of people to taste it at the kind of Great Taste Awards and the World Cheese Awards, and started winning, and suddenly realized that he could no way keep up with demand in his kitchen at home. And that's when he kind of moved production into Farmview Dairies and the Castlereagh Road in Belfast. Again, we were talking about the milk up there earlier on too. So they kind of use whole milk from a 5 mile radius for making the Kearney Blue. And Paul is in the process of retiring. So he has brought in Davide Tane, who also makes the Scamorza from Bello Cheese, in with him, taking him under his wing and started showing him, pretty much completed showing him at this point, all of his cheese making skills and prowess. And a great testament to Davide's cheese making skills is that it really is just as good as it was kind of before he went on board with them there. It's just such a lovely, it's a terrible description, but when people are kind of looking at it in the cheese counter and trying to work out how it's going to taste, we sort of vary from saying it's like a really well marbled blue brie, because it does go squidgier with age, or also that it kind of has a little bit of a taste of gorgonzola to it, but really it's nearly a thing by itself. I'm not sure there's a style that's, the other cheesemakers will probably have a better kind of thought on this than me, but as far as kind of a style that it's kind of replicating or kind of falling in with, it's very much kind of something of its own. It is just 4 weeks. It matures for 4 weeks after being pierced after 8 days. So it's young. It is a lovely young cheese, and relatively mild blue, and lovely sort of. What's really great about the cheese scene here now at the moment is that everybody's kind of started making their own things. So we've really got an entire cheese board. Everything works so well together. So the Kearney Blue works alongside the Young Buck. It's not like you have two blues that are similar in any way to each other. It's kind of lovely and creamy, and it's also quite fruity, but in a different way, really.
It's quite yellow paste as well, isn't it? And I think that
I do really love the texture of it on the palate.
To the Northern Irish milk is that a lot of these cheeses have quite yellow paste, so it's creamy, superb. So the scamorza is, we do actually have a question which, Julie, you might be able to answer. We've got a fellow US person. So we live in the US and we will be visiting Northern Ireland this May. Where are the best places to eat in Northern Ireland? Are there cheese restaurants? I don't think you, oh, you need to unmute, Julie.
Right. Cheese themed restaurants per se, I'm not aware of any, but I think
you'll have to come to London.
No. I think we can no need. I think, I think every decent restaurant, Belfast, Derry, wherever, has got, great cheese boards. And I think a lot more care is being put into cheese boards, and it's not just a selection straight from the fridge with a lump of grapes stuck on it. So I think even if there aren't sort of, restaurants where cheese is the overarching theme, I think you'll find a decent cheese board at any of the fine restaurants over here.
And Steve is saying in the chat, Ox, which I think is somewhere that does.
Ox is a Michelin star restaurant in Belfast, and they have some beautiful cheese, and they have Ox Cave next door where you can go in for sort of different cheese plates and a glass of wine. And they've also been truffling the Ballylist themselves, have they, Mark? Is that correct?
They've been really, really supportive, Laura, since day one. And I'd say it just blows you away. It's kind of, you pinch yourself. But I'm just going to jump in just from what Julie said and yourself about Mike's shop, Mike's Fancy Cheese in Little Donegal Street. When Mike opened the shop, and I'm not speaking for him here, I'm kind of just giving my observations, to that, or to those folk who are coming in from the States, the food tours that Mike was kind of hosting down there, I was doing a couple of deliveries and bumped into people coming into the shop every once in a while. And for me, that's where I would actually send them. That would be my recommendation, as it's not my shop, but I wish it was. That's where I would send them to. I think it's an absolute cracker. Or your own shop, Laura, down the Armour Road there,
yeah, and we have
what a cracker.
We also have fortnightly tastings at the moment in a bar in Cumber where the headquarters are. Of kind of, one of them is exclusively Northern Irish cheese, and then one of them is all kind of Irish cheeses. So they're all on.
And it's just my opinion. I think they're going to get a better insight as to what's going on here and on the island of Ireland with everybody's cheeses and something like that. I'm not taking away from a restaurant cheese board. They've been very good for us too, but you tend to have 2 or 3 cheeses on a restaurant cheese board. When I go into some of the, these shops, the vibrancy, the knowledge, the enthusiasm, you can't help but be drawn in by that and enticed.
And Emma and Mark are saying, just get a hamper full of cheese from Indie Fude and sit by Strangford Lock.
Yeah, they're absolutely right. If you've got the weather, just come in, because it's not only the cheese, and Mike's shop's the same. You know, I'll get beautiful charcuterie, like locally made bread, sort of everything you need to sort of go out.
It's so exciting. You know what? When you see the people coming into these shops, I see them when I'm maybe lucky enough to get down doing a delivery, and people are coming in, and you know what? It's alive and it's happening, and it's vibrant, and it's a real thrill to be sort of feeding into that when you're bringing the cheese in, and people turn around and say, "Oh, will you make that?" or whatever. It's fantastic.
Cool.
I'll just move really just quickly onto the Scamorza, just to let everybody have a wee taste of it. Again, I was chatting about Davide earlier on. So Davide Tane is who we have kind of joined forces with for Velo Cheese by Indie Fude. So Davide is another of these people that we've managed to kind of capture and keep from Northern Ireland. He met a woman in Sardinia, his home, when he was doing like bike food trips as a tour guide, and met his wife, who was in Northern Ireland. She wasn't from Northern Ireland, and then moved back here, and always obviously had this passion for cheese. He tells an excellent story himself about when he first kind of went to a cheese making facility with his dad and was kind of eating warm mozzarella for the first time. So that kind of passion has been kind of long sort of instilled in him for cheese making. And moved here in 2015 and has been sort of slowly moving into cheese production, making small batches ever since then. And now this cheese that we have is the first batch that's been made in the new facility as sort of a kind of experiment, one of the test batches. So I hope you all like trying it. It's by no means sort of a completely finished product.
It's lovely.
And Scamorza is maybe a little bit peculiar on a cheese board, but it's nice to have something a little bit different. Sorry,
Laura, it's just gently smoked as well, not overpowering.
It is, yeah, really gently smoked. It's smoked with maple wood, so I think that's where you get the kind of slightly sweeter smoke. I think that's the smoke he's going to use moving forward, but there is kind of a lot of kind of trying different things, and it was like everybody's alluded to, it's all kind of one kind of big fun experiment as you try different things as you move along. So
how would you recommend having this cheese, because it's not a typical cheese board cheese, is it? So how would you recommend having it, or how would Davide recommend having it if he was here?
So he gets really upset if you say it's only good kind of for cooking and things. So he does like to eat it sort of sliced, thinly sliced, just nice and fresh, really lovely, and kind of a sandwich, the same as you would have a mozzarella, really. So also really good with like nice fresh tomatoes or basil, anything like that. But also obviously it has such a superb melt. So it's gorgeous on a lovely stone baked pizza, and great in any kind of toasty. Also nice, sort of it does melt like mozzarella, Jane. It melts really well. And it's really nice, just kind of loosely ripped as well. So if you're having like a warm salad or something, rather than melting it, it's nice just kind of torn as you would a mozzarella and put through that sort of slightly warm salad, like a warm lentil salad or something like that.
Sounds delicious. Do you guys remember, egg slicers, which are the wires?
Yeah, it'd be pretty handy.
So they're really good for cutting these sort of cheeses, and especially that slice would be perfect, wouldn't it? Remind me of a little egg when it arrived in the box today. But they are brilliant for getting perfect slices. Is use an egg slicer.
So Davide does also make a burrata. It makes a burrata, the stracciatella, your mozzarella, Scamorza, nice ricotta. And then we'll be trying to experiment with kind of nice products with the waste. So from the whey, so after the ricotta, then there's like brown cheeses or like caramel sauces and things all on the card to sort of see what we can make work and sort of have a bit of a play with. I haven't tried a smoked burrata before. If somebody's mentioned that, maybe something to try. I don't know what it would do, because a burrata is such a sort of fresh cheese usually. Suppose if it could all be in a day's process.
It might slightly harden the middle, mightn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Harden that cream in the...
I'm sure somebody has tried it at some point.
The maggoty cheese from Sardinia. No, thank you, Jane. We're not going.
I think I might draw the line at that, but
That's brilliant. That's given us such an amazing overview of the Northern Irish cheeses. I hope everybody agrees. Is there any more questions in the chat? Put them in. But I think I'd love to say thank you to everyone, to Mike, Mark and Julie, and most of all Laura, for coming on and telling us all about this. Thank you to Invest Northern Ireland for helping us put it on. And I hope I've really enjoyed the cheese. It's phenomenal. So I think Indie Fude, you've got something going on the website, but you're going to fix that and orders can come in. Mike, keep up the good work. Mark, keep up the good work. Julie, need to have you back to do the full range of cheeses, and Mark as well. And Mike, you're just going to have to make more cheese.
You hate it when people say that, don't you, Mike?
No space. If you got a spare £500,000, Tracy, I'll make as many cheeses as you want.
Oh, I wish. In my will, I'll leave it to you.
Sweet, happy days.
When I've got no hair. But no, thank you so much. And it's amazing to hear all your stories. I want to come and do food tourism as well. So, but I'm going to close the webinar now. Thank you, Laura. And
thank you, everyone.
Everybody is saying thank you in the chat. There will be a recording of this available as well, so we'll get that out to anybody that wasn't able to make it or wants to watch it again. But thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night. Bye bye.